there's something you're gonna like. I don't care who you are.
And all of the refugees, you know they're coming to get you. So quick, better run away and live your life another day. Hanging out in the suburbs, and we got personality, charm, and personality. Personality, charm, and personality. Personality, charm, and personality. Drinking beer is awesome.
Hello, my name's Taylor, and I am but a passenger in life. But every now and then, I'll grab something from the refreshment stand. Now, I've lived in Bozeman, Montana for 2 years now, and I've loved every minute of it. But if there's one thing that living in Montana has taught me, it's never judge a book by its cover. Indeed, in this land of the rugged and romantic West, in this land where the deer and the antelope, or pronghorn, play, where buffalo roam, and where cowboys chase elk off their land, where the sky is big. Here, I have found a deeper truth. Beer. Craft beer. Now, don't get me wrong. Prior to living here, I knew that Montana produced some excellent beer, but I never knew to what extent. I never realized the scope or the magnitude that local craft beer meant to communities across this big-ass state. There are almost 40 microbreweries here. Not bad for a state with barely 1 million inhabitants. Now, like with any great quest, there needs to be a starting point. And that's why our journey begins here, in Bozeman. Literally just down the road. Out of the 5, count 'em 5 microbreweries currently in the Bozeman area, I want to start with the Bozeman Brewing Company, or Bozone. And we might not only learn something, we'll get crafty.
My name's Tucker Kahlberg. I'm the manager here at Bozeman Brewing Company. I've been working here for about 7 years now. The brewery started back in '01, and that's my boss.
He's drinking beer, all right. It's a comfortable, normal state.
Exactly.
Beer in front of him.
I gotta lubricate the pipes somehow. My name is Todd Scott. I'm the owner of Bozeman Brewing Company in Bozeman, Montana, at 504 North Broadway. BozemanBrewing.com, 406-585-9142. You're next.
Okay, hi, Bill Hyland. I'm the brewer here at Bozeman Brewing. I'm from Massachusetts, Arlington. My friends tell me I've been here at least 8 years.
It's always been the running joke for a long time that kind of the jack of all trades. Really an all-encompassing title as manager.
I started as a home brewer, and my original intention was to be a hermit in the woods and away from people and society and their rules and regulations. Figured that I could do without a lot of things, but I couldn't do without beer. So one of the first things I wanted to do was to learn how to make beer.
I didn't have any idea that I was gonna end up being a professional brewer. I just wanted to actually be a bartender. I thought I'd be a great bartender. But I definitely knew that I was going to come to Montana and brew beer.
I was full in on it, and I've been doing it ever since.
Beer is arguably the oldest fermented beverage created by humans, and some might suggest that its presence in the archaeological record reflects a sure sign of civilization itself. As hazy as the history of beer might be, written records of beer show up in ancient civilizations such as Egypt. I mean, how else could you explain the pyramids? That would make one hell of a tap room. Fast forward a few empires and religions, and we have beer in Europe. While the earliest European beers might have acted as narcotics, Christianity eventually introduced hops to beers, and the forever joys of brewers droop. This was particularly important for fasting Trappist monks, who brewed and quaffed barrels of the stuff to keep their minds off eating and, other carnal desires. Europeans eventually brought their brewing expertise to the New World, where brewing thrived. In the United States, however, 1920 brought about prohibition, rendering the production and consumption of all alcoholic beverages illegal and effectively killing the brewing industry. This might be considered the second greatest extinction after the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. Fortunately, Prohibition was repealed in 1933, but it left basically the entire industry in the hands of some well-known major players. But thanks to former President Jimmy Carter and his signing of the House Resolution Bill 1337 in 1978, home brewing was once again legal in the U.S., hence igniting the American craft beer movement that we know today. And while some might associate this movement as a statement of hipster culture, craft beer, like kittens and the internet, can be enjoyed by all.
I started Bozeman Brewing 11 years ago after my former job, which was brewing for Spanish Peaks Brewing Company, moved their production facility to California.
I had no idea this place existed for a while. When I moved to Bozeman, I was all about Spanish Peaks. I'm like, all right, here we are, let's go.
Spanish Peaks preceded us. There was nobody that preceded them, going all the way back to post-Prohibition.
And I totally drank Todd's beer when I was like 19 back home, which is a riot. I had no idea that they had closed and it was all over.
And really it was servicing, a market that had just lost their staple and was just in really, dire need of a local craft brewery to grab onto.
Time went on, and then eventually a buddy of mine was like, well, have you been to the brewery lately? And I'm like, what brewery? I had no idea.
We've always been available on draft.
Well, we wanted to provide something for everybody, so we've amassed a year-round selection we think hits all facets of craft brewing industry. A well-rounded, approachable portfolio helps pay the bills throughout the year, and then we're able to delve into the seasonals that give us that creative outlet that you always need to keep you interested and really keyed in the craft industry.
Beer is produced by an awesome chemical reaction involving 4 essential elements: a starch source like malted grain, hops, yeast, and water. No shit. Water pummels the starch source in a kind of badass hydrolysis where the starch is converted to sugars to form wort. This is something that might resemble a dog's breakfast. Hops is then added primarily for flavoring and possibly to ward off timid spirits. The main reaction occurs when yeast is unleashed on this quagmire. Yeast is a microorganism that comes in several varieties desirable for brewing. I can't really pronounce any of them, but here they are. The yeast takes to the sugars extracted from the starch source like a child on espresso, producing CO2 and, most importantly, alcohol. This process is called fermentation. That's fermentation. Very good. Obviously, there's no end to the creativity and love that can go into varying the ingredients, especially when it comes to flavoring, but this is really the heart of brewing science. Now I'll get back to work.
Me and a few of my friends were just really into beer, Ever since we started drinking at a ripe young age, we always wanted to try everything. And it wasn't too long that we realized, all of those macro brews more or less taste the same. And there's not a whole hell of a lot of variety.
The U.S. had such a disparity between quality beer and what was available. There just really was no quality beer unless it was an import. Back 30 years ago, that's all you had. Let's face it, when the craft brewing industry kind of sprang up, we had 3 major breweries. And they all tasted the same. It was all the same beer, more or less, and they dominated. And so there was a huge void there. And anytime you have that big of space or that big a gap, somebody's going to step in and fill it.
There's things that we make that are not entirely different, generally speaking, compared to the mass-marketed yellow fizzy suds that everybody is familiar with.
The first beer was our Bozone Select Amber Ale, intended to be our flagship beer, and that came about immediately. I just thought that the amber category seemed to appeal to the masses a little more. A very middle of the road, wasn't too bitter, wasn't too hoppy, wasn't too malty, wasn't too dry. It was just an easy drinking introductory beer. Then it was a style that I didn't mind drinking myself. My goal was to emulate that style of beer as close as possible, but make it different enough to make it our own.
The first thing I noticed when I moved to Montana, the 6-packs were like $5.99 on sale. And I just remember being like, this state isn't going to be good for me. I'm going to drink too much beer because it's so cheap.
Montanans love beer. I'm born and raised Montanan, and we love beer, and we love being able to keep it as close to home and supporting industries that derive a lot from the local communities.
We're kind of our own little, isolated continent almost in Montana, and there's definitely a culture here, and there's several cultures, and you know what? The cowboys drink craft beer too.
We've got a very friendly relationship with the other breweries in the area. I like to call it a competitive cooperative.
That's something for me personally that I always want the public to know about. I really want people to know, because I think folks have this impression that, we're all like competitors.
We're willing to lend them grain or trade hops or even just help in any technical aspect that we can if someone's having an issue in their brewing processes.
You don't find that in too many other industries. I forget who it was, made a really great statement about the guy from Apple called the guy from Microsoft because he ran out of S's for his keyboards, and like, oh, we're having a run of keyboards today, man, and we're out of S's. Can you send us like a few, boxes of S's for our keyboards as we're out? What would happen? Be like, screw you. It used to feel like it was like you were sort of on the outskirts and like it was sort of a counterculture thing maybe, and it probably was at the beginning. Now it is, to me, just so integrated. There's absolutely no way to generalize the craft beer community anymore. What it's really about is people discovering that craft beer has a lot to offer as far as different flavors. There's just so many possible flavors in beer.
I think there's a lot more quality beer available out there than there was 20 some years ago. So if you have a reputation as a quality manufacturer of quality beers, they're going to be willing to try just about anything you put out, which has been fantastic.
Because ultimately, more good beer, handcrafted good beer, is better for everybody in the industry, and it'll help to chip away at the large domestic light lagers that people traditionally associate with beer as. They're willing to trade up a little bit for a more localized, handcrafted product in their backyard.
I think a lot of people tend to prefer something that's a little more robust than the domestic swill. Something that's closer to sex in a canoe. Which is fucking near water.
Does this keep happening to you? Are you tired of the same old beer? Is it just not working for you? Is your love life suffering because of it? Are you losing your hair? Are your pets turning on you because they don't know who you are? Well, there's no need to suffer any longer. Good news! From the makers of this pill and avocado oil comes Craft Beer, the beer to end all beers. This all-American ale will restore your faith in beer and in yourself. Simply take a can of craft beer and pour it into a genuine craft beer glass. Smell those grade A ingredients. They're from just down the road, literally. Now enjoy. Within seconds, craft beer will work its magic, and you'll feel better and more confident in no time. You won't know what hit you. These results are made possible by a complex reaction of taste and ethyl alcohol, producing a feeling of pure satisfaction. And the ladies love it too. But wait, call now and receive a genuine craft beer glass with your order, absolutely free. If you are not satisfied with the product, simply enjoy a few more, responsibly. Satisfaction is guaranteed. So don't waste another sip. Get your life back on track with craft beer.
In this very room, in a couple of hours, this bar will be lined with people. And if you came in and tried to say, like, what is the demographic of the beer drinker at the Bozone Tasting Room, you would not be able to isolate it at all. There'll be guys in here that are like 75 years old, gray hair, sitting here drinking pints of IPA next to some really big dude with a ton of tattoos and a nose ring. And then over here in the corner, there'll be women having a little girls' afternoon with their children.
We're almost to the end.
That's good, because my beer's almost empty. By the fact that there's more breweries coming in, the pool's just going to get that much bigger. And so that's why I think everybody will be fine and do well. I think the community is inviting in that way and willing to accept anybody who produces a quality product. So I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
I love being a part of the craft brewing industry. Ultimately, I see myself a part of it for a long time. We don't necessarily do it for the big bucks. It's more for the love of what we do, and particularly where we do it at.
That to me is the best part about this industry, and it's absolutely represented in Montana.
Great. Thank you.
Good. Awesome.
That's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Now we can take a nap.
Beer is nothing new, but it's with craft breweries like Bozone that we can begin to rethink what beer is and who we are as beer drinkers. It's more than just what brand we enjoy, what state, town, region we enjoy it from or in. It's about going to the source if possible, experimenting, and learning about what it is that makes us enjoy it so much. If there's one thing that can be said about American craft beer culture, it's that it truly is a collective of individuals bringing art out of science within society. For me, this is just the first sip, and I look forward to many more experiences, whether it be at Bozone or any of the fine breweries across the country. Every beer from every brewery tells its own unique story, and I encourage those interested to listen. Because, in the end, beer may be beer, but respect it, enjoy it, and then the concept of this ever-quaffable beverage can become something so much more. So what are you waiting for? Get crafty. Just don't forget to leave a tip. Just keep going. And action. You get light beer, ooh yeah, light beer, oh yeah, and cut.